This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Well, after last week's extremely adventurous episode, we promise that there's not going to be anything like that this week.
No, we don't want you getting so nervous, and of course, we didn't want to go through that either. So instead, we just made a lot of progress this week, and what we got started with is prepping for building the bridge deck, because we want to get the floors in the boat so we can start walking around in there and start building all the interior portions. So now that we've got our shade roof up top, we can start working on that. So we're going to head over the lot and show you what we're doing to build on the parts we need in order to build and then raise the bridge deck. So let's head on over to the lot and check it out. It's a new week. Our top is up and we're happy about that, but it's time to get on to new things. So we've got a couple tables here, and the reason for that is we're going to get to going on the Foredeck Web area up in front of bulkhead number 5. And the reason for that is simply that we want to get to raising the floor, and before we can build the floor, we have to get that web in there, because once the floor goes up, we use that to curve the front of the bridge deck as it wraps up around those forms. So they have to be on there. So Brian and I went and got them out of the white container already, and we're going to start figuring them out on this table here, and then we're eventually going to mount them onto the front up there. So before I start with that, just one last look here. You can see that we've now got 2 straps, one forward and one down on each side over here. The same thing at the back, so that this is very stable. And then we also have ones on the side as well. We put this extra support in here since the cabin top doesn't have any real support there, since the helm goes across this section. So we put a board in there to make sure that that doesn't sag down and take a wrong shape. But the rest of it looks good. You can see that the roof is still matching to that form there. And out here, it's also matching along to the form. So it looks good. The bulkheads are all straight, up and down, and not bent from the weight of this at all. So everything here is looking like it's ready to go. Now the front up here, it's a little weird because it goes, that doesn't look right. Well, it isn't. The deal is that the bottom of the window is at the top of that bulkhead. The top of the window is way back here, but we have nothing to support that right now. So we just put this where it is just to rest it on there. But truthfully, the windows go way back past where the rain catchment system is. All right, so here Brian's got our F-web pieces, and the forward webs. And these are those curves that I was talking about that we have to bend the front of the bridge deck up around. And that's why we need these in place, to use those curves to get it bent up and around there. Now, this bridge deck piece isn't going to bend that much. You know, where it bent down for the roof, that was fine, but that's a severe bend. So what we're going to be doing there is we're going to have to kerf, put little slices in it to get it to bend up there, but we'll get to that afterwards. First, we've got to build this forward web, and that's what we'll get to right now. We had a kind of chicken and egg problem with our getting started on this. This is all out hovering in space. And one of the bulkheads that it connects to that goes across here, it actually doesn't connect down to any of this. It connects into the chamfer panel, and the chamfer panels won't be in a long time from now after the bridge deck's in. So how do we get this all hooked in here? And so we're going to be putting this panel first up in here, and this is the only starting point we have that's a fixed point, which is why we're going to start by putting in this panel in this orientation. And so what we had to do was figure out where does it go. So we in the plans, we got off the center line, which is right between those two panels here, and measured over the correct distance for where this goes. But being as it's just sort of free floating out there, getting it leveled and everything is difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and put a block here and here, and then we're going to literally screw it on to the bulkhead. So it'll be screwed on like this. And then on this side where there is no block, we're going to cove this and glass it and let it set up. And once that's hard, this thing's not going to move. And then we can take the blocks off the other side, cove and glass that on another day. And that'll get these first two just sticking out. From there, we can put the next one on, which goes here. And that one goes all the way out and connects to bulkhead number 7. And so we can take this out and connect it over to bulkhead 7, and now we'll have some stability this direction as well. But before that can actually connect across there, it only goes halfway about here. And that's why we need those first two in there, because we're going to have to put the free-floating bulkhead number 4 attached to these 4 that are sitting here, and we'll bond that all together. And then from there we can extend out and connect to the next bulkhead and then do the interior spots. So that's the way we worked it out, and that's the way we're doing. So we tape these 2x4s so that the epoxy won't stick to them. And we're going to run a bead down here, get it up there, screw it in, and then put the cove down the other side. But we're mixing enough thickened epoxy right now to put the bead on and the cove so that once we get up there to start, we're ready to fly. And then before that even sets up, we're going to go ahead and glass it with 2 layers of tabbing on there as well. Okay, now we'll put the cove on. I think I do. Yep, I got it. Okay, it's all squared up, glassed, and set. So we finished up that first web yesterday of the foredeck, and it's glassed in nicely over here. So you can see that. Of course, we still have to pull the blocks on this side, and then we'll glass those in. We're not going to do that first. First thing we're going to do is come over here and glass in this Keelson up here, because we had this last one still to go, and we need that done because we need to be able to put bulkhead 2 and 1 in. 1 is what's going to hold that 4-beam up there, so we wanted to get those in. But the Keelson has to get glassed in first, and now while that's curing, we'll come back over here and we'll put web 3 right there. It'll stick out just like web 1 does here, and one on the other side as well. And if we get to it today, if that sets up enough, we will put bulkhead number 4 across. Now, of course, we're also going to pull those blocks and glass those 2 edges of web number 1 right there. So let's get to it over here and let's get started. Okay. First 400 didn't go far. got us about to here. So we're going to be mixing quite a bit more thickened epoxy here to get a good cove on this all the way down. All right, well, with the Keelsons all done, we're back to working on the web for the foredeck. Pulling these blocks off right now. But as you can see, this is well fixed here. Our blocks are glued. Now, as I was saying, they're a little attached. But the tape made it mostly good. There we go. Okay, blocks off. Now, it may sound like we're not prepared here since he's still cutting and I'm already applying and all that stuff, but what happens, we mixed up too much epoxy for the last thing we just did, so it's cool enough that it would still be usable right now. So we just added some thickeners and turned it into thickened epoxy. So now we can use it on these two and not waste it. But that means we weren't quite ready, so while I'm doing this, Brian will cut up our glass and start mixing some straight epoxy for me and all those kinds of things. Okay, 2 layers of glass. Okay, this one. Number 2. There, we didn't waste any epoxy at all. Used it all. Very nice. All set. That was our goal for the morning, was to get the Keelson done. Get these 2 glassed in, and then after lunch, we'll start on number 3. So we measured over from here to get the right measurement based on the plans. And then when we put this number 3 in, it lined up with the bottom and the top. So therefore our measurement was absolutely correct. So we're positive, we know where it goes. Done? Yep. All right. Now we're gonna mix up epoxy. Okay, we're gonna put forward web number 3 on. Hang on. All right. Now, I know I said we were going to lunch, but we all looked at the clock and it was 10:30, so we said, well, wait a minute, we can get these 2 on, so we did. Getting the second cove on right now. Okay. I just don't run into it while I'm getting up here. Sweet. That means we've got a good amount of stuff done this morning. We got that Keelson, we got the second half of web number 1, and we've got web number 3 on both sides on its first half, and after lunch we'll put the other half in, and if it's set up enough, we may put bulkhead number 4 across here, so hopefully. Good morning. So we've got the cove finished here. I already pulled the peel ply off. Came out really nice. So that side's done. Here's what the peel ply looks like. It's all good. So these two center ones have both sides, but this one, we've got to do this side over here. So we just have a little squeeze out, and we'll put a cove over the top of that right now. And same thing over here. We need to do this side here because this one's all set. And our goal is, we have many goals for today, but glassing this in is just the very first thing. We're going to put We're going to put bulkhead number 4 mounted to the face of leading edge, I should say, of all 4 of these panels right here. So we go, and there's nothing that 4 hooks to right now that we can glass it to besides these, but we need it here because we need it there in place to put the curved parts on the front. Later, of course, it'll be glassed into the jumper panels and the deck on top and the outer side and all this stuff. So, but right now it'll just be glass to these 4 panels, and that'll hold it up. And that allows us to get the front on, which is important because that's we need to put the bridge deck up. As soon as we get this on today, we'll be letting that set up for tomorrow. We'll do the front part. We're setting up our blocks here, put 2 more over here, to hold bulkhead 4 up here in a moment. Let's see, when. So now we're ready to bring bulkhead 4 up here, and we have blocks ready to screw it in. Eventually we'll probably put blocks over there too, but initially this will hold it up there. And these are set up on both sides right now, so for 2 days now. So plenty strong to hold this. So we're going to go get our bulkhead now. Let's see if this also will make it. Hey, we're in. Could have been worse. This one slide it over a little bit. Should run a race rest against there if you move it over. Well, sort of. It'll rest against one. Ready? Yep. Okay. We've already marked here where the webs meet up with this bulkhead, so we just had to line those 2 up. So now we know it's in the correct position this way, and then we're lining the top of these up flush on this side. So Brian's going to hold this. I'm going to go on the other side, and well, actually it's this side.
This side, yeah.
I just have to figure out where to screw these things. Now, the first block is right here. Well, that's where bulkhead 4 goes. So now that it's held up by blocks, we can start glassing one side of it all the way. And once that's in, tomorrow we'll do the other side. Time for us to lug bulkhead 8 out. We got some peel ply and stuff to get off, so.
What's your top?
One of our favorite jobs. Absolutely, we live for this, pulling peel ply. Now, seeing that there's only 3 bulkheads that are both glassed into the hulls and go all the way across between the hulls, that's 5, 6, and 8. We decided that we were going to put an extra layer of basalt onto this one, 8, at the stern here. And so that's what we're doing right now, is just laminating this on. So we're going to need a lot more than this. So why don't you go mix about 500. This is basically a peace of mind layer. It just means that the stern bulkhead will be a little bit stiffer, a little bit stronger. And we had the extra basalt, and we decided we wanted it on there. We haven't wet the top out yet. This is just soaking through, so we're going to be applying more epoxy in a moment. Okay, 1 layer of basalt. By getting this on here today, we're going to put this bulkhead into the stern tomorrow, because the other side's already done. And let me show you that, but all done. So tomorrow we can put this bulkhead into the boat, and that'll allow us to start building the stern box structure, which is involves the bench area at the back of the boat, but it also makes a box area which is very secure and strong instead of a single bulkhead that can be wobbly. And so that involves getting bulkhead number 9 as well as 8 in, and they work together and create that box area. And then that helps for when we raise the bridge deck up, because we need to attach it to the front web and the stern bench web area when we bring the bridge deck up. And so all of the stuff we're doing in the last week is prepping to get started on the bridge deck, because that's our goal, is to get the bridge deck in as soon as possible. Once the bridge deck is in, we can stand inside the boat, and that allows us to do a lot of other things. So as soon as that bridge deck is up, we're going to move to the hulls and get the sole in the hull as well, so that we can walk in the hulls and we can walk in the boat. And that's a really big goal. And now the bridge deck is such a huge job. That's not going to happen in a week. So we just want to get it as fast as possible. We budgeted in our phase 4, I believe, 6 weeks to do the bridge deck, but I'm hoping we can do it in 4 or 5 and shave off a week or 2 there, because that'll get us back on track a little bit. And things are going well, so it's very possible that that could happen. Now, the only way it's going to happen is if we bring in more people, and so we're going to try and do that to work on the bridge deck. As the slowest portion of working on it is mixing thickened epoxy. It takes the longest time. So I'm going to bring in a couple people whose only job is to mix thickened epoxy, and that's it. That's all they do, mix, mix, mix. And then Brian and I can go to town on coving and tabbing in all of that bridge deck squares, which I'll show you right here. You can see just how many squares that we have to cove the bottom, double tab the bottoms, and then false or dummy cove the tops. And so it's a ton of work. But there's also things like how we build the supports in for the mast, and how we put in all of the conduits for plumbing and electrical. Huge bus bar that goes all the way across the boat so that I can deliver power from the batteries to the electric motor in the opposite hull. And that's got to carry, for just the motor, over 500 amps at 48 volts. And other things as well, like that bus bar is also going to send power to the winch, the power winch, and the windlass up front. So these are some heavy use areas of power. There's also the kitchen, which has, induction electrical pads, and they pull some amps as well. So we've got to get all that whole electrical worked out. And it seems like it's way ahead of time to be doing it now, but we've got to build a bridge deck now, and so we have to get all that built into it. So we have to get the whole electrical system of the whole boat figured out before we can finish that. So we'll be doing a lot of planning sessions on the electrical side, and some on the plumbing is not quite as critical because most of the plumbing runs up in the hulls, not through the bridge deck. There's just a little bit that comes over into where the kitchen part is, but that's very little. I might want to put a drain in over where the two freezers are in the island, which I'll point that out right here. Those are out there, and I might want to put a couple water drains there, or at least one that they both feed into that goes across through the bridge deck and out to the hulls. So things to think about on that. And of course our whole NEMA 2000 backbone has got to be run through there for all of the nav station connecting to the helm station. So there's lots to think about on this bridge deck besides just building it. So we're working towards it. Next week, we have one more day of this week tomorrow, and that's going to be getting this bulkhead in and finishing some of the Foredeck Web up as well. But next week, I'd love to be working on the bridge deck, and we probably will start, but we're still going to be working on building the webbing in between 8 and 9, and maybe a little bit of work still up in the foredeck area there. So we got some more things to do there that we have to get ready. And but while things are setting up, we'll probably start fishing out all of those pieces for the bridge deck that we got to find and get assembled into something. So that will probably for sure start next week. But the week after that will probably be where we really go to town starting to build the bridge deck. It's Saturday. It's time to put in bulkhead number 8, which yesterday we put this basalt layer onto. And it was a bit tricky getting into position here, but we brought in a whole team of people, which you'll see in a minute. But we've got Terry and Zach and Carl and Dale and Brian and myself. So it's enough people that we can maneuver this around. We've already placed it into the hull and dry fitted it. And we marked where it fits into the hull. And then you can see these jacks over here. That's because it's a very tight fit. So by putting the jacks, we can spread this a little to get it down in here while we are when we put the glue in, and then we'll take the jacks back out again afterwards. So there's one on each side, getting us just the spread we need to get it in here. And it's been leveled in all directions, and the check from the end of the boat over to make sure that they're identical on both sides. So we've done all that measuring and everything, and we're ready to glue this in. So Brian over here is mixing thickened epoxy right now, and I'll apply it, and then we'll have the whole team pick this beast up right here and set it in, and they've all got their marks to line it up to all set. So once it's in and glued in place, we'll double check with a level to make sure that it's everything's right, but we've got marks, so it should be good. All right, time to put in our bead here so we can glue down bulkhead number 8. So get a little bead. I don't need it quite as much up here. I'm losing it out the back. A little bit more of a gap right at the bottom, so I'll put a little bit extra there. It's not a big gap. Fortunately, we have a cool day today, so we're not in a rush on the epoxy setting up, so we're good. Probably got about 30 minutes or so. He'll take 5 to mix that, so no big deal. All right, time to lift this thing. All right, so the trick is not to smear it as best we can, so we got to go up and then down into it, right? How you guys doing over there? You ready to go down?
Come on down.
That's pretty level. That's where I put it. That's 0. I'm going to say that's good. So here's the crew for the day, and this is a momentous moment because this is the last crossing bulkhead that we ever have to put in the boat that goes into the holes and such. So it's the bulkhead 8's in, all set, and now we can start building our stern area back here, and we'll get to that next week.
As you can see, we had a good week of progress on building this week. Managed to get that last remaining bulkhead in between the 2 hulls placed. And we really want to thank our crew that we had working with us this week.
Right. So thanks to Zach and Carl and Dale and Terry for showing up when we needed them to lift that bulkhead into place, because it was not something that Brian and I could have done on our own. And of course, we got some of the foredeck stuff built, and then got another bulkhead across up there as well, bulkhead number 4. And next week we're going to continue on building the bench area at the stern, putting in bulkhead number 9, and that one doesn't cross between the hulls, but we'll get that in next week, and try to finish off the foredeck so that we can start building that bridge deck. And you'll learn more about that as we go. So thank you all for watching this week's episode. We do appreciate you there in showing up and spending your time with us. And thank you to our patrons as well for helping to keep our project going.
As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
Which will be more boat building.
Bye.